We have a massive trade incoming for the Sacramento Kings. Of course, the team has been the talk of the NBA, given the De'Aaron Fox reports that have dropped over the past couple days, but now a deal with the Utah Jazz looks imminent. So we'll discuss that, including the implications that it has on the whole De'Aaron Fox scenario, because of course, everyone knows that the Spurs are the big team that's in talks to acquire De'Aaron Fox. There are a few other teams out there on the radar, but the Kings are making moves ahead of this year's trade deadline, and we're going to be covering it all. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you're part of the 83% of our viewers that haven't hit the subscribe button just yet, because we are going to be breaking down all of the madness that's been going on with the Sacramento Kings in recent days. And frankly, this just keeps getting crazier. As just minutes ago, as of recording, news came out that the Kings and the Utah Jazz are in serious trade talks centered around John Collins. Now, this is very, very interesting because John Collins is a guy that has gone under the radar across the NBA, but at one point was a guy that was projected to be an all-star, got a big contract, was one of the more valuable pieces in the NBA. Then, of course, things didn't really work out in his last season or two with the Atlanta Hawks. Then was with the Utah Jazz, and of course, they have struggled. But John Collins is quietly having a very, very good season. So looking at his stats, John Collins this year is averaging 18 points per game, 8.4 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 1 block a night, 1 steal per game, shooting 45% from the three-point line, and he shoots 54% on corner threes. And guys, he is only 27 years old. Now, John Collins, of course, is a player that, has had his ups and downs over the course of his career, but he is rolling right now in terms of impact, in terms of production, in terms of what he's actually providing out there on the court for this Utah Jazz team, even if it's not leading to wins. And even though, there's question marks about his defense, his fit, his different stuff, when you have better players out there around him in the lineup, that three-point shooting for a forward is any green light to acquire a guy to bring him into your organization, and especially that he plays a position of need. Now, the Kings, it's no secret, they are in need of some big man depth. This was apparent at the start of the season when Trey Lyles was out with injury. Of course, has come back. There's been some guys step up, including Jones, including different guys out there on the lineup, but big man depth is something that the Kings can really use and add to their arsenal. And John Collins, adding him to the mix, adding him to your front court, you are getting a bona fide starter out there in the NBA. And what's the other thing that the Kings are kind of lacking that needs some improvement on? And we saw in the last game against the Philadelphia 76ers, they need three-point shooting. And I'll bring up the stats once again. We got to show this multiple times because I don't think a lot of people are realizing this, as some things have been coming out, some dropping with this John Collins stuff. He shoots 45% from the three-point line. He's a 45% shooter from behind the arc. That is elite. As on a solid volume, that is a very, very high number out there for the forward position. So not only does he play a position of need, but he also is a guy that does some things out there on the court that are really desperately needed. Of course, we could add some extra, defensive presence, but he is a solid rebounder. And closing out the possessions beyond Domantas Sabonis has been a struggle at times for the Sacramento Kings. So he does help on the defensive end in that area. He can get a little bit lazy and stuff, but we'll ignore that because of all the positives that he ends up bringing to this team. Now, what's the logistics? Because you get a guy like that, you're like, bet. Well, what are we giving up? We're not giving up Fox for him or something crazy along those lines. Well, there's some paths, some avenues. I know Kevin O'Connor's pitched some trades and some moves that would send John Collins some different places back to the Kings, but this move can be done without De'Aaron Fox, of course, being in these trade packages. So just taking a look at what the Kings have to offer. We have a ton of draft picks on Sacramento to move forward. Don't have our first this season, but second round picks basically for the future. Chicago one that's protected 31, 54. So not super valuable there. That's more of a vanity piece. But essentially, you have your first for 26, 27, 28, 29, and 2030. Now, this might be a serious risk, given the fact De'Aaron Fox is asked out, or not asked out. His agent said it'd be a smart time to trade him. The Kings are looking to shop there. But if this team doesn't have interest in rebuilding, doesn't have interest in dialing things down, that might be the perfect time to sell away one of these first-round picks if you think you're going to be good out there for the future. You have a proper plan in place. So they deal away a first for next year, deal away a first for 27, whenever the heck you want to do it. If you just attach one first to this deal, given John Collins' trade value, I don't think you have to attach more than that. And frankly, I wouldn't be shocked if a couple seconds might be able to get it done. Now, you are dealing with Danny Ainge. You are dealing with Danny Ainge, who likes to finesse teams when he's making trades. So, of course, you probably, realistically, this deal is going to get over the line. De'Aaron Fox is not in. One of the players that the Kings don't want to add are not into it. Probably first has to get involved. But an ideal trade out here in this scenario is Kevin Huerter, Trey Lyles, and 2 second-round picks. Probably that Chicago one won't work. I know Danny Ainge is not accepting that, but one of the more valuable second-round picks for John Collins, that would be a heist. Monte McNair would be out here cooking. He could sell a cookbook if he's able to come out here and make that trade with the Utah Jazz. Because John Collins would help out on the offense, would give another threat, especially from behind the three-point line, will bolster the front court depth. It is exactly what you want to see, the type of move you want to see from the Sacramento Kings. So, and you're not giving up that much draft capital. Again, a couple seconds, you live with that. You live with that moving forward in the future. So, again, losing Kevin Huerter, he's had his ups and downs over the course of the year. I don't want to minimize his value the same way some people do. But Kevin Huerter this season, 8 points per game, 2.9 rebounds. The reality is he's shooting just 30% from behind the three-point line. It's like, oh, we don't have any shooting. Why are we giving it to Kevin Huerter? This move, you are improving your shooting. You are going up by about 15% out there from behind the three-point line. That's how much better it is than Kevin Huerter's been over the course of this year, and they actually play a position of need for Sacramento. So that's one area. And then Trey Lyles, which, again, his value is kind of, I don't want to say overstated, but he's more valuable to the Kings right now because there isn't a ton of guys out there that play that forward spot, center spot, versatile out there on the wing. So it will be tough letting Trey Lyles, go out to Utah. But for in a move that you need to make the money work, in a move that you acquire John Collins, one of these types of deals, that makes a ton of sense for Sacramento. And I think it makes a ton of sense for Sacramento, regardless if, whatever your plans are with the De'Aaron Fox situation or not. Because right now, the odds of De'Aaron Fox, as of recording, he's still favored to stay with the Sacramento Kings past the trade deadline. So you want to compete, you want to maximize the window that you have with De'Aaron Fox, whether he's on the roster or not. But this team is interested in making some win-now moves and on top of acquiring some draft capital and stuff in that De'Aaron Fox trade. So they don't want to mortgage their future, but they want to stay competitive. There's enough strong players on the roster to where, again, the draft picks are more valuable in the NBA today because of cap situation, because of the hard cap, and it makes a lot of restrictions regarding teams that are over that cap line. So I get the value draft picks out there in that scenario. But what 15th overall pick is going to be better than John Collins? Let's be real. Well, if 27 draft, 28 draft, which 15th, if the Kings are expected to be like first out there in the draft, maybe throw some protections on it, top 4, top 5. But what 10th pick in the NBA draft, what's the likelihood that they're going to be better than John Collins? Unlikely. Very, very unlikely. So I think you go for it. I think you make this move. And then, again, you have concerns about DeMar DeRozan, which we'll make another video on tonight. His future of the organization. You want to stay competing. You don't want to go back through another 5-year rebuild for Sacramento. You have enough talent. If you reshape the roster, you get the right assets back for De'Aaron Fox, you can be competitive. And you can have the opportunity to steal like this in John Collins in one of these trades. Makes a ton of sense to me. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do you want to see this move happen? Let me know. Anyways, you guys are the best. I'm signing out. Cheers.